Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. This is our last day on the 48 Laws of Power series. I know you're relieved, but I find this one quite interesting. There's a lot of nuance that applies to a lot of different aspects of your life, which is true of all of these, but this one in particular is quite interesting. We're just going to jump right into it. Law number 36 is disdain things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge. By acknowledging a petty problem, you give it existence and credibility. The more attention you pay an enemy, the stronger you make him. And a small mistake is often made worse and more visible when you try to fix it. It is sometimes best to leave things alone. If there is something you want but cannot have, show contempt for it. The less interest you reveal, the more superior you seem. So there's a lot of different little facets to this particular law. What he's saying is, if something is really causing you a problem, giving it attention is going to make it worse. Dwelling on it, ruminating on it, letting it live rent-free in your head is going to make it worse. If you want to project some strength and confidence, then let the little things roll off your back. It's one thing just to have casual conversation, but it's another thing to be obviously irked by something and parading it around to everyone. Again, there's time and place for everything, but when you're playing a bigger game, when you are working against people or entities that are bigger and stronger than you have to be a little more careful with this. Now, the same is also true when you fuck up. There's times where going around and making a huge deal out of it and apologizing to everybody and bringing it up to everybody just makes it worse. It makes you look worse. It doesn't help with the accountability, and it just makes people dwell on it more, puts more eyeballs on it, gives it more attention than it deserves. When you fuck up in some way, owning it and saying, hey, this is what I did. I was wrong. Here's what I should have done. Here's what I'm going to do differently moving forward. Cool. End of conversation. We're done. Moving forward, you make it right, but then carry on with your life. If you get hung up on things, if you're constantly ruminating on things, if you're letting mistakes live rent free in your head, you're going to start making those mistakes again, or you're going to feel like you're making those mistakes again. There is a certain amount, and I have to be careful with this because one of my big hangups psychologically is I grew up in basically a religious cult that taught you that basically every, quote, natural emotion, instinct, whatever you want to call it, that you have is potentially your enemy. So you live in this constant fear of your own mind. That's a bad place to be. So my big hang up in life is I honestly don't care about my feelings that much. As much as I care about, are my feelings reflecting reality? Am I reacting to something in a reasonable way? Is my reaction in touch with reality? Is my perception of the situation in touch with reality? Because there is a difference between perception and perspective. Perception is how you filter what you see, what's happening to you, whatnot. Perspective is seeing the broader picture disconnected from you as an individual. Now, with all of that said, there is a certain amount of, I'm trying to think of the right way to say this, there's a certain amount of self-delusion that can be useful. And what I mean by that is how you tell yourself a narrative that may or may not be true. It may or may be exaggerated. It's just something in your internal dialogue that prompts you to do better, that prompts you to keep going, to keep pushing, whatever that is. There are useful delusions. But in those situations, you were in control. You were the one who is dictating that narrative in between your ears. Outside of that is a different story. But what he's pointing out here is a lot of times we make things worse in our own head. And when we act on those things, it makes the situation actually that much worse. Being able to get a grip on your own emotions, your own thoughts on something, will make it so much easier for you to handle difficulties, for you to handle conflicts or perceived conflicts. I can tell you how many times over the years I've thought that someone had a problem with me and they didn't. It was literally all in my head. So our brain can manufacture those negative delusions. Well, why not manufacture a positive delusion? One that is useful to bettering your mental health and whatnot. Again, not staying out of touch with reality, but shaping that narrative in your head because we are all driven by narratives. let's unpack the reversal of this, and then we'll dig a little bit deeper into the meat of it. Reversal. You must play the card of contempt with care and delicacy. Most small troubles will vanish on their own if you leave them be, but some will grow and fester unless you attend to them. Ignore a person of inferior stature, and the next time you look, he has become a serious rival, and your contempt has made him vengeful as well. The great princes of Renaissance Italy chose to ignore Caesar Borgia, I think that's how you say the name, at the outset of his career as a young general in the army of his father, Pope Alexander VI. By the time they paid attention, it was too late. The cub was now a lion, gobbling up chunks of Italy. Often, then, while you show contempt publicly, you will also need to keep an eye on the problem privately, monitoring its status and making sure it goes away. Do not let it become a cancerous cell. Develop the skill of sensing problems when they are still small and taking care of them before they become intractable. Learn to distinguish between the potentially disastrous and the mildly irritating, the nuisance that will quietly go away on its own. In either case, though, never completely take your eye off of it. As long as it is alive, it can smolder and spark into life. So I connect this kind of to the development of the good old boy system, because the good old boy system didn't just pop up overnight. The corruption and toxicity in our culture didn't just happen overnight. It was little problems. It was little bad decisions that grew over time, that morphed into something bigger and badder and much more problematic for us. Somewhere along the line, a group of people got a little too comfortable with some sketchy shit was going down and didn't stop it, and it turned into something bigger and badder that couldn't be stopped. And now we're in the position where we're in, where it is this monster that has its tentacles literally everywhere. But even in your own life, it's important to be careful what you are dismissive of, number one, because, like we talked about before, you never really know who you're offending, who you're talking to. You don't know what the downstream effects can be. So it is always important to be professional and gracious and be measured in your interactions with people, because how you treat someone now can have a lasting impact on them for years. There are people that treated me a certain way, that treated friends of mine a certain way, that treated coworkers of mine a certain way. And I remember conversations of those people from years before. I haven't forgotten those things. So it's important to remember that what you say now to people, how you treat people now, will come back to you either good or bad. If we want to gain some influence and gain respect as individuals in our agency, as a profession as a whole stacked up against other professions, we need to not let the little things, the little bad things, derail us. Because when you allow little things to live rent free in your head, to upset you, to affect how you act, you lose a lot of stability and you lose a lot of respect. If you're someone that gets pissy whenever they get a call, period, you just get a call and you're pissy because it ruins your day. You're not respected and you're part of the problem, and you're actually making it worse on yourself. Like, this is a self-inflicted injury here. This is not something that someone else is doing to you. It's literally your job. So the fact that your job irritates you so bad that everyone around you knows and everyone around you can feel it, and you can't do the bare minimum of your job without bitching and complaining, you gain zero respect amongst your coworkers. How do you expect us to gain respect as a profession when we have enough people like that, who are talking like that to other providers, to other patients' family members, other citizens? What do we expect to happen in that situation? So being able to stay aloof of the little things, the petty little irritating things, and focus on the things that are actually important, focus on the battles that are important, focus on the movements positively that are important, and not get sidetracked by stupid shit. People are going to be awful. People are going to be rude. They're going to be condescending. They're going to try and throw stones in your way. Well, guess what? If you can just walk right through it confidently and not even blink twice about it, perfect. Perfect. Because what that is going to do is that is going to convey some strength. That is going to convey confidence and resolve. and that you are not someone who is easily trifled with, and not in a threatening way, even. Just you're not bothered by a lot of those things. You take those things in stride. And that is where I think we need to work on our emotional regulation as an industry, of not letting these little things bother us. And if you can't get something, because how often do we go through this? Have we seen it where people are trying to get promotions? They're trying to move up the ladder, and they're so fixated on it that when it doesn't go right, it completely destroys their world. And they just become more bitter and more bitter and more bitter, and go to somewhere else and try to climb up the chain there, and they get more bitter about that. It happens. I get it. It's frustrating. It's obnoxious. But your response to that needs to be measured. And in general, silence can be one of your most powerful responses. Because let's say you're in a situation where your agency has put a target on your back. They're trying to get you to trip up. If you can exert the self-control to not respond to whatever the situation is, to, you get passed over for your, the fourth or fifth time for your promotion, just be silent. Just be quiet. It will irritate them. If they're actually against you, it will irritate them. Ultimately, you'll gain some respect. That doesn't mean you can't ever talk about it. I mean, sure, you have your friends that you can convey some level of disappointment, but your public face about it, how you handle yourself, is very, very important. So basically, don't sweat the petty things and don't pet the sweaty things. Plain and simple. It's not unlike dealing with bullies in school. Bullies are after a reaction. They want your attention. Same with authoritarian leaders. They want compliance, but they also thrive on your reaction because they will use your reaction against you, as do bullies. So being able to either be silent or to laugh along suddenly changes the dynamic a little bit, doesn't it? As when they're anticipating a very vitriolic, strong reaction and they don't get it, it's going to irritate them. And if they are outright coming after you, they're going to do more. And by not reacting, you force them to show their hand, because this is true in negotiations. Whoever breaks the silence first loses. So if you create this silent response, and if they truly are coming after you, if you got a target on your back for whatever reason, it will draw them out because they won't be able to handle the silence. And specifically on promotions, if you have a reputation for going around and pouting to everybody about not getting a promotion, let's say. And again, it's easy to do. It's because you're easily disappointed. It's fine. That is a disappointing thing. But when that's your reputation, and that's what you were known for, and that's a predictable response, that's a problem. And that will pretty much guarantee that you either won't get a promotion, or if you finally do, you will get the most bare minimum promotion and then just be left there and told to shut the fuck up. So if you want something really bad, shut up. Just shut up. Make your moves quietly. Because, and if you are going to make some noise, make it purposeful. Yes, there is a place for theatrics. Divert attention from the people that you are at odds with. I worded that incorrectly. Divert the attention of the people you're at odds with away from whatever it is that you're actually doing. So sometimes that means feigning disappointment, feigning frustration. But if it's purposely misdirecting from what you're actually doing, cool, that's strategy. Now, of course, we don't condone that when the actions being taken are unethical. But when they are ethical, nobody really gives a shit, right? We don't give a shit in war if you're misleading the enemy, because that's the nature of war. What do we say? All's fair in love and war. Don't get too bent out of shape about that, because if you actually think through these things, it makes a little more sense. The major takeaway from this being, get a grip of your emotions. Even if something is bothering you, don't let it overflow that it's bothering you. And again, there's nuance to this. Obviously, standing up against what is wrong, speaking out against certain things, such as denouncing senseless violence. Awesome, cool. If it bothers you, fucking say something. But on a more strategic level, when you're playing chess, it is important to be as emotionless, or at least emotionless in your presentation as you possibly can be. Now, you may have all the emotions inside, and that's fine. Regulate them. Get a grip on them, and get a grip on what the narrative is in your head, good, bad, ugly, or otherwise. Get a grip on it. Use it to your advantage, and ultimately, for the good of yourself, for the people, good of the people around you, in a professional context, for the good of your agency and the profession. That's not a bad thing. So, if you learned something good, share it with your friends. If you were offended, tough shit. Life's hard. Put a helmet on. I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.